These 10 wrestlers need to return to WWE soon, starting with number 10, Wade Barrett. Okay, yes, Wade Barrett has technically returned, but you know what I mean. I'm talking about an in-ring return. Now, I'm not expecting Barrett to pick up where he left off in 2016, but there's still opportunities for him. For example, I think it'd be cool to see Barrett get involved on NXT, considering he was the winner of the show's first season. Seeing Barrett compete against the current roster could lead to some interesting matches and storylines. Or, what if Barrett started his own faction in NXT? I think that would be a great callback to the Nexus and could lead to some good stories and feuds. Plus, come on, wouldn't it be great to see Bad News Barrett again?
I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I knew it. I love when he does that.
Number 9, the Boogeyman. You laugh, but I don't. I think Boogeyman was a fun character, and he'd allow for more creative moments. I'm not saying I want him to wrestle every week and be in the main event, but I think there's a role for him as a reoccurring character. Like, what if a wrestler ran under the ring in the middle of a match and found Boogeyman under there? Or someone needed a surprise tag team partner, and it was Boogie. I get that WWE and wrestling have evolved, but I think there's still room for more flashy and supernatural characters, and Boogeyman embodies that perfectly. Plus, the man is still in phenomenal shape and can still go, so come on. Number 8, Enzo Amore. Okay, I know this is a bit of a controversial pick, mostly because Enzo Amore himself is a controversial wrestler. Reports and stories have surfaced that he wasn't liked backstage, and even got kicked off a WWE bus during a tour. Of course, what ultimately led to Enzo's firing was when he was accused of assaulting a woman, although the charges were later dropped due to insufficient evidence. With all that said, Amore was a very entertaining person to watch. Remember when he roasted the entire cruiserweight division? There weren't many people who could lay a verbal smackdown. Amore really stood out. Enzo doesn't even need to come back just to wrestle. Having him as a mouthpiece for someone would be great. I know that the chances of Enzo returning to WWE are next to zero, especially what happened at Survivor Series 2018. However, I do think there's value that Amore could bring, but this next wrestler could bring just a bit more. Number 7, Mandy Rose. Here's another person who had their WWE career cut short due to backstage controversy. Mandy Rose made her main roster debut in late 2017 and had a solid 4-year run there. However, Rose's career really picked up when she left the main roster and went to NXT. While this could seem like a demotion, it really helped advance her character. Mandy changed her look and formed a new faction called Toxic Attraction. Within a few months, Rose won the NXT Women's Championship and held onto it for over a year. She was a good champion, and it seemed like it was only a matter of time before Mandy Rose would be back on the main roster. However, one day after losing the title, Rose was fired from WWE. The reason was that Mandy Rose had a fan time account, basically the same thing as OnlyFans. While WWE isn't as PG as it once was, they still draw the line at adult content. Because of it though, we missed out on seeing this version of Mandy Rose on the main roster. Not only that, but Toxic Attraction itself never got to go beyond NXT. I know WWE's women's division has moved on, but I feel like there's a spot for her and some unfinished business that Mandy has to attend to. Number 6, Gail Kim. While Mandy Rose did get time to shine, Gail Kim never got that. I know it's cliche to say, but Kim was part of the Raw era. During both her first and more so her second run in WWE, Gail Kim was competing in the Divas era. This is when women weren't allowed to do much outside of catfights and hair pulling. That was such an underutilization of her skills. It's a shame because a few years after Gail Kim left, WWE's women's division did a complete 180. While Kim had phenomenal matches in TNA, I can't help but feel there have been a lot of other great matches that fans have missed out on. I don't expect WWE to rehire Gail Kim and make her the new face of their women's division. What I am saying is I think Kim could definitely have at least a handful of great matches against the modern women's roster. I also think there's a good story there, with Kim coming back and getting the chance she never had during her initial WWE run. Number 5, Matt Cardona. Formerly known as Zack Ryder, Cardona is almost an entirely different wrestler now when compared to what he was doing in WWE from 2007 to 2022. We always got little glimpses of what the man was capable of, thanks to stuff like his YouTube channel and the brief times WWE actually did utilize him. However, after his release in April 2022, Matt Cardona pretty much reinvented himself. He started wrestling all over the globe, as well as winning championships in just about every company he appeared in. Most importantly of all though, Cardona's been able to let his personality shine. I'm not saying Cardona needs to come back and win the world title, no, but I think there's definitely a place for him in WWE right now. Kind of like how Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre left WWE and came back bigger stars, I think the same would be true for Matt Cardona. Especially with Cardona's real-life wife, Chelsea Green, currently in WWE, I think there are a number of routes the company could take with a returning Matt Zack Cardona rider. Speaking of someone who totally reinvented themselves, let's talk about number 4, Mustafa Ali. During his final few years with WWE, it felt like the company valued Ali, but didn't know what to do with him. Like, remember when Ali randomly fought Randy Orton at a pay-per-view in 2019? It was awesome, but it seemed like WWE wasn't sure where to go. The best example of this, though, was, of course, the infamous Retribution storyline in 2020, where Ali was the leader of a group of masked vigilantes. It was a cool idea, but again, it didn't go anywhere, and the execution was horrible. However, I feel like now that Mustafa Ali is on his own and has more control over his character, we're seeing his true potential. I really like his "In Ali We Trust" gimmick that he's doing in TNA, and it's actually an idea Ali had while in WWE, but the writers decided not to go with it. I feel like WWE missed out, because it's been great to watch. Like I mentioned with Rhodes and McIntyre, maybe some time away from WWE is all Mustafa needs. Plus, now that Triple H is in charge, I would love to see if WWE could do something right with Ali. Number 3, Paige and Sasha Banks. Okay, I know I'm cheating and this is kind of a random pairing, but I'll explain. First, I'd like to see Sasha Banks get another run in WWE. One, because her exit was so abrupt, with her walking out of the company in 2022. Second, now that Triple H is in control, I think there are some new possibilities that Sasha may not have had before. On top of all that, the roster has changed and evolved, so seeing Banks feud and have matches with the current women's roster would open up a lot of possibilities. Now, between Banks and Paige, I definitely would rather see Paige return, mainly because of her career getting cut so short. For those who don't know, in December 2017, Paige suffered a neck injury at a non-televised WWE show. Sadly, it forced Paige to retire from wrestling at the age of 25. But after leaving WWE and joining AEW, Paige recovered and was cleared to wrestle. This allowed her to return to the ring and have a run in AEW, which went from 2022 to 2025. The fact that Paige's in-ring WWE career ended the way it did, and that she can now wrestle again, is a big reason I would love to see her return. Now, why I paired Paige and Sasha Banks together goes back to the injury that temporarily ended Paige's career. In case you didn't catch it, it was a kick from Sasha Banks that caused Paige to get injured and forced her to retire. Considering everyone involved would be okay with that, I think this would set up a great storyline. If both women returned to WWE, you could have a great feud where Banks resented Sasha Banks for nearly ending her career. Paige could be on a mission to end Sasha's career, and while Paige would be the villain, you could have some sympathy and see her argument. I know it gets touchy when you incorporate real-life events into wrestling, but that's what creates some of the best storylines. Now, I realize that AEW could have told this story too, since both Paige and Sasha were competing there simultaneously. However, since Paige's career-ending injury happened in WWE, I think it just makes it easier to tell that story if it's being told in the same place that it happened. While I wouldn't mind seeing one or the other back in WWE, I think having them there together and telling that story would be the best route. One other wrestler whose career was over way too short is number 2, AJ Lee. I know, I'm one of many who want to see AJ return, but that's for good reason. While AJ didn't get forced into retirement, her career had an abrupt ending and she never got a proper send-off. What makes it even sadder is that AJ Lee was one of the few bright spots during a time when WWE's women's division was in a dark place. She brought a lot of excitement to the division, and unfortunately, she left right when women's wrestling was starting to pick up. Just a few months after AJ Lee departed from WWE, the women's revolution began. Imagine the feuds and matches Lee could have had with wrestlers like Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley, and more. Heck, think of all the phenomenal matches AJ could have now with rising stars like Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. Lee might not have the desire to come back, but if she does, now is the time. Before I share number 1, here are a few honorable mentions. Maven. Okay, I know this is biased since I do work with Maven on his YouTube channel, so all I'm gonna say is, I think it would be really cool to see Maven back as a commentator or manager or in some kind of on-screen role. Stardust. Hear me out, I'm not saying I want Cody Rhodes to return as Stardust, rather, I want just Stardust to return. Does that make sense? I think it would be a great moment if Cody was talking on the mic and out of nowhere, we hear this. Come on, that would be fun. Or take it a step further and have someone wrestle against Cody dressed as Stardust to play mind games on him. I just think it'd be an entertaining one-night return and help show how far Cody has come. Goldust. On the topic of Stardust, seeing Goldust back in WWE once more would be sweet. I know he and Cody Rhodes had an amazing match at Double or Nothing in 2019, but just seeing Goldust one more time, even if it's just a one-off appearance, would be awesome. Sin Cara. Yeah, I know, I'm the only person who would say this, but I like Sin Cara. Yes, I know that he botches more than the US stock market, but you could have anyone wrestle under that mask. I know it probably would never happen, but I would be absolutely fine if Sin Cara returned to WWE in some shape or form. Samoa Joe. Joe's run in WWE was kind of a mixed bag. His time in NXT was pretty good, but his run on the main roster was hit and miss. It didn't help either that Joe kept getting hit with injuries during his WWE career. However, now with some time away, I think seeing Joe get one more run in WWE would be great. Alright, and the number one wrestler who needs to return to WWE is Vince McMahon. Okay, I'm kidding. The actual number one wrestler who needs to return to WWE is Dean Ambrose. Now Ambrose, or Jon Moxley, is doing wonderful things in AEW, and I don't see him leaving the company anytime soon. But at some point, he needs to come back to WWE. The company has changed a lot since he left in 2019, with new stars, a new direction, and just a different vibe altogether. While seeing just Ambrose in WWE again would be epic, the reason he gets the number one spot is because of the Shield. They are one of the greatest factions in wrestling history and made WWE enjoyable during a very dull time. We have to see the Shield together one more time before all three men retire, and I feel confident that we will. Something we weren't supposed to see is what's under the ring, but WWE accidentally showed us. To find out what's really under there, watch the video on screen.